extreme tiredness, nausea and vomiting. Pregnancy expert explains Meghan might be finding the first 3 months so tough as Duchess skips morning duties on Australia tour. As mother-to-be Meghan is learning, the first trimester, and often beyond, can be unexpectedly exhausting. Consultant obstetrician Maggie Blott said, during the first half of pregnancy, particularly the first 3 to 4 months, many women experience extreme fatigue, which is partly because the body is working very hard. A baby grows faster in the first 3 months of pregnancy than at any other time, so a woman requires a huge amount of energy to support that growth. You also expect some pregnancy hormones to be higher during that period, which can also contribute to extreme fatigue. It's nature's way of making sure a woman slows down to allow the body to concentrate on growing a baby. Extreme tiredness can often cause recurrent symptoms of nausea and vomiting, and the only thing to do in that situation is to rest. Anyone who has worked and been pregnant knows how difficult it can be to get up when the alarm goes off in the morning. And the only way to deal with is to go to bed earlier in the evening. As for jet lag, Dr. Blott said pregnant women can take longer to adjust. I tell women who are traveling, be patient, it will take a little time. But should a woman embark on a grueling work schedule while expecting? Dr. Blott said, look at doctors who work until they give birth, barristers in court, they all have busy jobs, so it's not crazy at all. The prince laughingly pulled on a pair of traditional Aussie budgie smugglers over his jeans yesterday. He was presented with the tight swimwear at a meeting with members of the Australian Invictus Games team in Sydney. Pregnant Meghan Markle has cut back on her royal tour schedule after an exhausting first few days in Australia. The Duchess of Sussex unexpectedly skipped joining husband Harry to watch competitors take part in the road cycling this morning. A royal source explained last night, she's feeling fine, but resting. The 37-year-old mum-to-be had a late finish on Saturday night following the Invictus Games opening ceremony. However, she was expected to join the Duke for the rest of Sunday's engagements. Meghan later delighted waiting royal fans by joining Harry, dressed in a white pinstriped blazer, a black polo neck-top and matching trousers. The pair met with Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison at an official reception for competitors, their friends and family. A senior palace source said, after a busy program, the Duke and Duchess have decided to cut back the Duchess's schedule slightly for the next couple of days, ahead of the final week and a half of the tour. The Duke will attend the cycling as scheduled this morning, and the Duchess will join him for this afternoon's engagements. The Duke will continue with the engagements on Fraser Island as planned. It comes as Harry and Meghan are said to be pacing themselves during their 16-day trip down under as they prepare for parenthood. Meghan showed off her growing baby bump yesterday as she and Harry, 34, opened the fourth run of his Invictus Games at a ceremony in Sydney. Giving a speech, the prince told of his happiness at being able to share the personal joy of his wife's pregnancy with the people of Australia. The couple revealed on Monday that they are expecting their first child, just a day before kicking off their royal tour, which has 76 engagements. And Harry gave warm thanks for the welcome they had when they started their 16-day visit, which will also take in New Zealand and the Pacific Islands of Fiji and Tonga. A senior palace source said yesterday, their Royal Highnesses are absolutely relishing the tour and enjoying every moment. They have both said how much they are loving their time here and have been overwhelmed by the warmth of the welcome and the people. It's a long tour and with so many engagements it's a real undertaking, but they are feeling good and pacing themselves. Harry stood in the shadow of the iconic Sydney Opera House as he delivered his speech to officially open the Invictus Games, addressing thousands of competitors, their families and guests. He said, "Thank you for the welcome you have given Meghan and I over the last few days. I have been so proud to be able to introduce my wife to you, and we have been so happy to be able to celebrate the personal joy of our newest addition with you all." Harry earlier this week spoke of how he couldn't think of anywhere better to announce to the world that he and Meghan were expecting their first child. The Duke has a particular affection for Australia, first visiting in 1991 with his late mother, Princess Diana. He traveled the country again in 2003 during his gap year and 3 times in 2015 and 2017. Harry told how it was 45 years to the day that his grandmother, the Queen, opened Sydney Opera House. He said, "On this day in 1973, My grandmother stood in front of this opera house and declared it open. 45 years later, to the day, it is my honor to be standing in front of this iconic symbol of Australia's place in the modern world at the start of the 4th Invictus Games. I'm sure you will all agree these games have never had a more beautiful backdrop. Harry created the Invictus Games after serving in Afghanistan and feeling more could be done to help injured servicemen and women. The first games were in London in 2014. Before his speech, he and Meghan, thought to be around 14 weeks pregnant, laid a wreath at the city's Anzac Memorial to commemorate the centenary of the end of the First World War and honor Australia's heroes in the conflict. He later told the crowd, "Invictus was inspired by the experiences I had alongside our servicemen and women from many nations. These games were created for our men and women in uniform, designed around their talents and their needs, and built not just for them, but also for the friends and families that have supported their recoveries and had their lives changed forever. Our Invictus family has turned these games into a symbol of strength, honor and optimism for a new generation." In a few weeks we honor the memory of the generation that fought the First World War, including the sacrifices of the Anzacs whose ethos and heroic actions helped forge the character of this great country. Royal observers have noted how Harry has been using this tour to demonstrate his ability to bring communities together and take on a statesman-like role. Earlier this year, the Queen made him a youth ambassador for the Commonwealth, a role in which he will help youngsters across the former colonies tackle their challenges. The Duke and Duchess are today 6 days into their tour. They will travel to Hervey Bay before visiting Fraser Island, a World Heritage Site that is the largest sand island in the world. Next week, they fly to Fiji and Tonga, then back to Sydney on Saturday for the closing of the Games.